Greetings from Costa Rica and welcome to the first ever edition of Matt's Market Report. My name is Matt Rosenstiel, aka Costa Rica Matt, and every week I'll be issuing a real estate market report on a different community in Costa Rica in order to provide real data and analysis of these locations to try and improve the information that prospective buyers have available to them. If you like straightforward information about Costa Rica, do be sure to subscribe to my channel. Our first episode is about Playa Grande, which is in western Guanacaste, just north of Playa Tamarindo, one of the area's major tourism hubs, and only about an hour from the Liberia International Airport. Now, as we do these market reports, we're going to divide them into 5 different sections. First, I'll be giving a community overview to give you an idea of Playa Grande and what kind of location it is, what kind of advantages and drawbacks it offers. Second of all, we'll talk about key real estate within Playa Grande and do sort of a geographic overview of what there is available in the community and which developments have really affected the real estate market there. Next, we'll go to analysis of comp data. I can't emphasize enough, we hope to provide real information, actual numbers for people to evaluate Costa Rica real estate. Today, we're going to look at the per square meter prices of undeveloped land in Grande and how that has changed over the years. Fourth, we'll go on to look at the rental potential of the market and comment on what types of investors who are looking for rental properties should be most interested. And finally, we'll draw some conclusions about the community and who should be most interested in investing there. Without further ado, let's start with our community overview of Playa Grande. And when we're discussing real estate, first and foremost, in our area, Playa Grande stands out because it has a lot of good things going for it that make it a solid real estate market overall. It has great access to private schools. You can drive from Grande to half a dozen of the best options in our area in about 10 or 15 minutes. Playa Grande also has great surf. And while I have absolutely no idea how to accurately describe it, it's definitely one of Guanacaste's beaches that attracts an advanced surf crowd. Not your learners who are going to Playa Tamarindo to use the perfect small wave there, but really your intermediate to advanced surfers who can handle some real waves. Finally, Playa Grande has an enormous advantage over other communities, and really one of the things that defines it as a real estate market is the fact that the entire beach frontage is part of a national park here in Costa Rica. And specifically, the beach frontage in Grande is part of the Parque Nacional Marino Las Baulas, or the leatherback marine national park here in Costa Rica. Leatherbacks are absolutely enormous Pacific sea turtles that are one of the precious species that Costa Rica protects. And because this area has been designated a protected area to provide nesting habitat for the Baulas, or those leatherbacks, Playa Grande has a very interesting development history. About a decade ago, the National Parks System and the environmental ministries in Costa Rica paused development in Grande, and this is one of the things that's affected most its recent history. There had been building permits issued for Grande and lots of developers going in there 20 years ago when all of a sudden development was paused because of this national park. It took 10 years or even more than 10 years for the situation to be sorted out. And essentially what you saw in Playa Grande was that no one could buy or sell lots and have a full guarantee of being able to build on them until the government had fully delineated the park and until the government had dealt with a water vulnerability issue and figured out which properties were going to be developed. So 10, 15 years ago, you saw in Grande the action absolutely stop as the national government and specifically the environmental ministry stepped in to figure out the boundaries of the national leatherback park and figure out exactly what properties they were going to be allowing development on and where they were going to restrict development. For many people, that made Playa Grande a place they couldn't invest, and you saw people lose their money at that time when the restrictions came in. And it wasn't until 2019 that the government had officially delineated the park, and you saw that pause, the moratorium on construction lifted. So Playa Grande is a community that was set up for substantial development prior to 2009. You saw a lot of people coming in and setting up lots, subdividing property there at the beach, and it was all paused while the national park was delineated and water issues were sorted out. So as of 2019, all of a sudden you had clarity as to which properties could be developed and which couldn't, and that allowed for an explosion in the community. But before we get to the explosion, let's talk more about the key real estate in Grande and sort of the neighborhoods that really define what foreigners will be looking at. As you come into Playa Grande, first you should note that there's a paved highway all the way to the beach at Grande, which would be one of the huge advantages it has. But as you come into the community, first about half a mile to 3/4 of a mile away from the beach, you'll pass the Las Ventanas gated community. That community is a very large development where you've seen luxury development to a degree. Really, it doesn't feel quite as luxury as someplace like Reserva Conchal or Papagayo, but definitely in our area, Las Ventanas outside of Grande is one of the higher end, really a neighborhood that feels very comfortable to anyone moving down from North America. In Las Ventanas, they have lots of different phases offering different sizes of lots. Down in the lower sections, you can find acres for sale, or those 5,000 square meter lots. And as you ascend into the community, they have ocean view properties. You've seen Las Ventanas grow in popularity and do very well because it's one of those major quality gated communities, of which there are only a few in our area. It has paved roads, it has a common pool, they have a little even skate park for kids, and it feels very much like a cohesive gated community with some extremely nice homes that is one of those few expat enclaves here in our coastline where you feel like you're in a real well-done neighborhood. If we head closer to the beach from Las Ventanas, we eventually arrive at the areas closer to the water where the primary development you're going to run into is Playa Grande Estates. There are hundreds of lots in Playa Grande Estates. They average about 1,000 square meters each, or a 1/4 acre. And when I say hundreds, we're talking between 200 and 300 total lots in the project that were split into phases labeled conveniently with letters A, B, C, D, etc. Playa Grande Estates is the place that we'll analyze here in a moment because it is located right in that area where development had been paused and restricted while they defined the national park. And it's a place where you saw just how much Grande exploded once they had removed the restrictions. From Playa Grande Estates in the heart of the middle of the beach in Grande, if you go to the south end towards Tamarindo, you come to what was the Palm Beach Estates development. Palm Beach Estates definitely has a lot more complications in terms of just the fact that a lot of their property ended up within that national park and restricted as a result. The Palm Beach Estates neighborhood is essentially tucked into the mangrove that is to the north of Tamarindo and to the south of Grande. And from the tip of Palm Beach Estates, you can take a very short boat ride, or you can walk across the river mouth and you're in the heart of Playa Tamarindo. So one of the very interesting things about Grande is that, yes, from the southern edge, you can get easily into Playa Tamarindo. If you were to try and drive from Grande around that mangrove and into Tamarindo, you're looking at 45 minutes just because you have to go so far inland around that mangrove I've been talking about back into Tamarindo. So it's got an interesting opportunity to get into a vibrant tourism hub quickly, but Grande itself is actually a very quiet community where the lack of beachfront development, the fact that the national park has very much eliminated commercial development on the beachfront, and you don't at all have that nightlife, the party scene that you see in Tamarindo. Let's move on now to talking specifically about comp data and the sales of recent properties in Grande to give you a better idea of where property values stand. Interestingly, in Playa Grande Estates, we pulled sections C and D from Costa Rica's National Registry. This involved pulling every single title from those two phases of Playa Grande Estates, and in total, it was about 150 data points that we were working with. So in the National Registry, you can see at what price these lots have recently sold and their size, the ownership information, and more. Interestingly, in the 13 years from 2005 until 2008, only 39 properties out of those 150 data points we're talking about in phases C and D changed hands or were sold. In 2021 and 2022, you had 100 of those properties sell. And that was simply because, yes, in 2019, finally the national park was delineated. Everybody knew what was going to be protected and what could be developed. And all of a sudden, those lots were developable. People could invest with security. So again, between 2021 and 2022, you saw 100 properties change hands, and that's only according to the National Registry. There could have been more that might have been sort of secret sales, but from the data we pulled, there was this extreme movement in those 2 years. Now, whereas you saw sale prices of those properties from 2005 until 2018 at $60 per square meter. That was the average from those 39 sales you saw in those 13 years. In 2021, your average sale price per square meter of undeveloped land in Grande Estates climbed up to $98 per square meter. And in 2022, you saw that number climb further still up to $155 per square meter. Now, this increase, which was enormous, 58% per meter squared between 2022 and 2021, is nothing unusual for the current surge in the real estate market that we're seeing. More people want to move to Costa Rica than there is available real estate. And in Grande, there had been a huge queue of demand a lot of people who wanted to live there, developers who were salivating at the opportunity to bring projects to Grande because of the surf break, the location, on and on. And all of a sudden, once they got the green light to purchase lots over the last 2 years, things have gone absolutely crazy. And so I'm actually very proud to say that I had clients close on 2 of those lots in the D phase of Playa Grande Estates for $82,000 each lot. That was about $64 per meter squared. Since then, prices have really gone up through the roof. And now, if you want to buy an undeveloped quarter-acre lot in this area, that close to the beach, you're going to be looking at least $200,000, if not $300,000 for the lots that are really close to Playa Grande. Now let's talk about the rental potential of Grande properties. And here I just have to express my confidence that given the current market and the huge demand for properties that are both close to schools and close to good surf, in Grande right now, if you own an existing home and you're willing to put it on the market for a reasonable rental rate, you're going to be able to rent it 100% of the year. There's no doubt that Grande has the right components to attract renters. Now, we pull data from AirDNA, a service that allows us to look at what Airbnb and VRBO statistics are providing for different areas. Grande and the areas north of it have an occupancy rate for all of the rental properties across the entire market of 56% annually. That's just slightly lower than the Tamarindo area to the south, where you see a total annually occupancy rate of 65%. But keep in mind, first of all, that up near Grande, this information is including a lot of properties inland that are very sparsely rented, and also that Tamarindo itself is probably one of the top rental markets in Costa Rica. And so you would consider that 65% market-wide occupancy rate to be about as good as you can do in Costa Rica anywhere, whether it's Paco or the Caribbean or the Pacific Northwest. So Grande, it being only 9% below Tamarindo, is in very good shape from the data side. And as you're evaluating investments, if you're somebody who is competent at bringing people to an Airbnb property, Grande is an ideal destination because even though it's not necessarily searched on Google 50,000 times a month, promoted well by a knowledgeable owner, if you do a good job of marketing the advantages of the area, you will be able to rent your property, and you're guaranteed, because of that national park restriction on the beachfront, that in perpetuity, Grande is going to be a much quieter, more residential community than Tamarindo, and you'll own a rental investment in a community that is very appealing to a wide audience. And specifically, Grande is always going to be a great place for long-term renters because it's so quiet relative to its neighbor to the south. Grande gives people great access to the amenities they need, but those restrictions being what they are, it will never feel like an overbearing, garish tourism hub that really doesn't provide a good environment for long-term renters. So you've got very good opportunity there as well. In conclusion, let's talk about the fact that Grande has been defined by restricted development, and really the history of the community was, and the real estate market was paralyzed due to environmental restrictions a decade ago. Just a few years ago, you saw all of that clarified so that people could buy into the community, and you've seen a rush as a result. If you're still able to buy into Playa Grande, it's an amazing place because of the surf, because the restrictions on the beachfront will always keep it quiet and residential, and because honestly, among the Guanacaste coastline, it has a special place somewhere less developed than Tamarindo and Langosta, but definitely more developed than some of those back roads communities that can feel just too rural for a lot of expats. To be completely honest, I tell a lot of my clients, if I didn't live in Playa Junquillal, my very quiet rural community, I would move to Playa Grande because you have the mix of a very nice residential community with one of Guanacaste's stunning beaches in a place that also has great access to a lot of the key amenities for people. And so it's an absolutely spectacular place to invest if you're still able. Thanks very much for tuning in. I'll be giving my weekly market report. Next week, we'll be looking at Playa Langosta, Tamarindo's little baby brother. Thanks.